at the 7th edition of the IMMENSIVA Festival this year in June. And I'm very happy and proud to say that we were the first artist residents for VR and AR artists ever worldwide, and nobody can take this from us. And hopefully there's going to be a lot of more ambitions to come with the artists and the artistic projects, also the talented artists which are part of the festival. And without further ado, maybe I would like to note, to conclude two things which I became aware yesterday at the vernissage. One is that seeing those installations, those projects, I was aware of the boundless and limitless actually possibilities that the symbiosis or the combination of technology and art actually presents. It's giving us so much more possibilities to indulge in those type of installations. And the second, which is linked to that, is that I think we should make much more effort on how to bring those installations, those logics, and this, let's say, technological creativity to the audience. In German you say, to das Publikum abholen, to really make them understand about everything. And that's, I think, something we should foster a little bit more. But thanks for coming, and I hand over to Alejandro now.
Thank you. Making connections, making an ecosystem, that I think is also the purpose of the Dirección General of Digital of Catalonia, that's putting together, that this is the objective of this today. And now we are going to see more magic things with the new research in Aalto about having sensations. No? So please, you, the first you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So thanks for the introduction. So my name is Yu Xiao. I'm an associate professor in Aalto University, and our university is located in Finland, in Helsinki. And my background is computer science, but nowadays I work for a School of Electrical Engineering, and I lead the Aalto Wearable System Lab there. So basically my group work on XR, wearable sensing and haptic, and we do quite a lot also related to AI, so AI for sensing, AI for design as well. And today it's my pleasure to come here to discuss with you a very excited area, the haptic in XR. And as just mentioned, that some of the case studies I will present today, they originate from this ongoing EMIL project. And the project has 4 partners, and you can find, of course, more information from our project website. And today I plan the talk in the way that I would like to share with you the latest advancement in haptic devices, what are available in the market. I would pick 3 examples, but then after that I would like to share with you our experience of developing our own haptic devices and developing haptic interactions in different VR projects. Okay, so let's start. So I'm sure everyone here is quite familiar with virtual reality, at least, and we know nowadays with virtual reality, it really provides remarkable visual and auditory experiences. However, the sensation of touch has often been missing. So what it means is that when you go into the virtual world, do you feel the objects? You see them, you hear the sound, but you cannot feel those objects, and that's missing. And that is also where these wearable haptic interfaces will come into the place. So when we say haptic interfaces, you could imagine they could be some gloves, vest, or full body suit. So they come with different factor forms. But what they all want to do is that with this kind of interfaces, they can replicate the sensation of physical interaction with objects. So what that means is that it will allow you to sense the size, the shape, the texture, weight, and even temperature of the objects in the virtual environment. So imagine that if we meet another person in the virtual world, we want to shake hands. And now, without these technologies, you are shaking hands, but nothing. right? So you would like to feel really the other people's hand, the temperature, the, you know, all this touch sensation. So then what are the available now? So there are now two types of haptic devices. So the first category is this kinesthetic devices. So how they work is basically, this will try to mimic the resistance or the forces encountered when interacting objects. So they often come with this kind of devices that provide force feedback. So imagine that they basically try to integrate different motors or brakes into this kind of exoskeleton structure that connect to the main joints of your body, and I will show you an example soon. So that is one category, and then there is the other category is this cutaneous devices. So that is those devices, they try to deliver the sensation directly to your skin. So for example, through vibration or ultrasound or electrical shock or some thermal electric like this. So these are two different. One is you imagine there's something attached to your joint by applying some resistance. The other is deliver the sensation directly to your skin. And for either type of these interfaces, if you imagine it's a hardware, it always has sensors there. So it needs to sense, for example, your poses, need to sense the forces, so it has sensors, and then it has also actuator. And the actuator might be motor, might be brakes, might be some electric, some electric generator or anything, and of course they need to have a control system there. And now I would like to pick 3 examples, and those are commercially available devices with different technologies. So the first example is a Sense Glove Nova 2. This is a haptic gloves. And the Sense Glove is actually a Dutch company founded 2017. And Nova 2 is the 3rd haptic gloves they launched. And with this kind of glove, what can you do? So first, it provides the so-called active contact feedback. So what does it mean is that you, in the virtual world, if I touch an object, I put an object, let's say in my palm, I should feel it. So this is what they mean contact feedback. And how they implement that is on the right side, you see this figure, it has this blue stripe. And that is the part that it will apply different levels of pressure to your palm. So when you feel you are holding an apple, for example, in the virtual world, and it apply the pressure there, so you feel like, okay, there is something there. But that's not enough because you might still not be able to sense the size of, or shape or stiffness of these objects. And that, for that, you need a force feedback. And in Nova 2, how they implement that is they use this so-called magnetic friction brakes. And you see on this left side, so they have this on 4 fingers, from the thumb to the index finger, they have these brakes on each finger. And you can see those wires there. So basically, you can simply imagine that I pull this. So then you kind of feel this force. And what it can do is that it can support 20 Newton of force. What they mean is that it's equivalent with putting 2 kilogram brake on each finger. So that is how much force it can generate from this device. And it has also this vibrotactile feedback. So it means that on this thumb and this index finger, it has a vibration motor. So what you can do, for example, if you want to do some virtual training, and sometimes when you operate something, you click the button. But how to feel that you are clicking the button? So they use these vibration motors on the thumb and the index finger to implement that. And the last feature is called a figure tracking, because you need to know where exactly your fingers are, the finger tracking. And in this case, because they have these wires, so they can simply measure the extension of this wire, so they know the finger position. But as I mentioned, they use the brakes to implement the force feedback, and this is so-called passive force feedback. And for this type of feedback, usually the force is predefined and static. And it's not good enough. And the alternative approach is called active force feedback, which means that you can actively apply and generate or controlled this feedback. And actually, as I mentioned, we work for EMIL project, and actually besides these 4 academic partners, we also fund up to, I think about now 20 so-called FSTP projects. So as you can imagine, it's like cascading funding. So there are some small projects. They are carried out by, for example, some SMEs there. And SenseGlove is one of these company or organization which is running the FSTP. And in this FSTP project, SenseGlove is now developing a high precision haptic glove for telepresence. And they are trying to implement active force feedback in this project. And with active force feedback, what would be the benefit? So the force feedback can become dynamic and programmable. And you could imagine that you could have a higher level of control over this. And here I have a 1-minute video, so they are introducing their current status. So it's interesting to see kind of like how they actually develop this kind of thing.
And I'd love to share our progress on the development of Rembrandt, a new haptic input device focused on teleoperation. Based on our target user analysis, we developed user personas, an illustrative way of representing people of different technical backgrounds engaged with teleoperation. These personas show user-specific needs and challenges, setting the target group of Rembrandt and forming our product vision. We aim to allow an operator to effectively control a humanoid robotic hand and feel various tactile information, all while robustly tracking the operator's hand and fingers. Currently, we are stepping into a concept design phase, simultaneously adding to our technology toolbox. From prototyping and testing our active force feedback concepts to exploring various methods of relaying tactile information to the hand. Stay tuned for our next update where we get to see how Rembrandt takes shape.
Yeah, so this project Rembrandt will still last for maybe, I think, 9 months. So if you're interested in following their progress, they release the video every 2 months on this EMIL's project website. So you can't find it from SenseGlove website, but you can find it from our EU project. So it's interesting to see how now you can see they are really like very basic prototype, how to implement the force feedback. But after, I think maybe 1 month, you might see in the market something look completely different. But from here, you can see how they actually developed this one. And then the second example I would like to show is called the haptic glove G1. haptic is probably the most famous kind of haptic company nowadays. It's a US company founded 2012, so already 12 years. And the G1 is a microfluid haptic glove they launched 2023 last year. So maybe first we can take a look their video, so you'll see how
the ultimate work tool is the human hand.
How it look like at least.
5 dexterous fingers, skin tough enough to work all day, and nerves so sensitive they can detect the finest detail. Our hands are the foundation of today's workforce and the inspiration for tomorrow's. Now, for the first time, there's a training tool that can match the dexterity and sensitivity of your hands. Haptic Gloves G1. The haptic gloves with the most realistic touch. G1 is lined with hundreds of air-powered actuators that bring realism to a new level. With powerful force feedback and precise motion tracking for enterprise-grade dexterity, G1 is uniquely designed for workforce training. It works in virtual reality, helping you build real muscle memory. It works with robotics, extending your reach with precise haptic teleoperation. And it lets you train robot AI systems faster and more successfully with the highest fidelity hand tracking and haptic data. We designed G1 from the bottom up to support the most demanding work. Industrial, medical, defense, and beyond. Order Haptex Gloves G1 now and get the best out of your most important tool, your hands.
Yeah. So from the video, you might have noticed actually this looks very different than the Sense Gloves Nova 2. So the Sense Glove Nova 2 is this kind of wireless glove, and this glove G1, first you need to have an air pack and then the gloves. And on the glove, they use the patented technology called a microfluid. So there are hundreds. So actually, earlier, they stated on their website 113.5, this kind of tactile actuator, very tiny ones, full of that on your finger. And then those actuators, they are powered by the compressed air from the air bag. That's why they need a big air pack. So they generate the compressed air, and then you can imagine like they can control this actuator, and that tries to displace your skin there. And for the force feedback, they use the same technology, and they can support up to 14 pounds of resistant force per hand. And for the motion tracking, they use magnetic motion tracking instead of this, let's say, the mechanical wire. So G1 and the Nova 2, they take quite different technologies. It's hard to really compare, say, which one is better, but it seems that they are targeting a bit different scenario there. So these two are the gloves. And then the third example I would like to...
The ultimate work tool.
Sorry, let me see. So the third example I would like to show, it's a full body suit. So it's called a Tesla suit. I assume it has nothing to do with the Tesla cars. It's also called Tesla suit. And this is the full body haptic feedback. And again, it has some different technology. So this one, it uses electro-muscle stimulation and transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. So to put it simple, so you imagine that if you have two electrodes, you put it on your skin, and then you apply this current, electric current. The current goes through this electrode into your skin. So it could actually tries to produce this electric shock that will cause your, for example, your muscle contraction or relax. And if you put it in the certain places, it might stimulate your nerve. So that is how it works. So it has both the muscle and nerve. And it tries to kind of mimic the natural signal that's generated by humans' nervous system. So in that way, you feel like your muscle or your nerve are like a relaxing or contraction. And in practice, the same technology, for example, this TENS has been often used for pain relief. So if you go to pharmacy, you might buy this some small TENS devices for back pain relief. So it's the same technology there. And for Tesla suits, they have these trousers and the jacket. So in total, 114 electrodes there, and the so-called 18 channels. And some people might get scared about those voltage. So it said up to 16 volt AC there, and then up to 115 milliampere for each channel. And actually, for this kind of technology, the important thing is to keep the current very low. So this 150 is already quite high because we did the test in the lab. If you just want to sense some, for example, we put the electrodes on the arm and tries to create this tapping. So you feel somebody is tapping you, and that only require like a 2 MA. And so I would imagine this 150 MA is really can stimulate your muscles. But personally, I have never tried it, but I will be also curious in trying that. And I think in some studios, they have been using the Tesla suite for motion tracking. So it has 14 this IMU sensors there for motion tracking. It can also monitor your heartbeat rate because it's like the whole body there. And you see now we have the 3 examples. And what will be your guess for the price level? 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 20,000? Huh? 12,000, yeah. So this is like a 12,000, and for the gloves, it's typically 5,000 to 6,000 per pair. And for those, you need often different sizes, like different sizes for the glove, different sizes. This need to be to fit the body shape, so it has different sizes. So if you buy 3 sets, it's going to be very expensive. And they look nice, and it actually takes always many, many years to develop such hardware devices, and they also come with some open API because you want to control them. But still, it's difficult to customize it because all the actuators are placed in predefined places, and the APIs give limited access to that. So when we, as a university researcher, you know, we want to study this field, and we want something customizable and also affordable. So we can't afford 12,000 like that. So then we start to think that maybe we can make something affordable and customizable. Maybe they don't look so fancy, but at least it would be enough for us to develop this kind of haptic experience. So we started our journey in 2021. So it was a similar event that we met an artist in Finland called Aurélie Delater, and his project called the Team Eve. It's a lab simulation Eve. So basically, that's during the COVID. You want the people, you know, remotely to be able to interact simply if you shake hands. How can you feel it? And then we have at that time we have a master student who has a technical background, but located in School of Arts in Aalto. So we said, let's work together. So it's similar like this residency here. We build a small group, and then we try to work together to build haptic gloves for that VR project. And we start with a very simple scenario. Can you feel your heartbeat? Can you feel the raindrop on your body or on your palm? And can you feel the water float over this? And we start with something very simple, because if you want to work with haptic, the easiest way to start with is a vibration motor. That would be my personal suggestion. Start with a vibration motor. It's cheap and it's easy to prototype. And I will show you a short video how at the end this would look like. But unfortunately, it's not possible to demo the haptic experience through the video, but you might get some idea. So that is the hand, and then there was some particle there, so like this. So basically, when you do things like that, you feel a bit like those water are flowing over your hand, or if you imagine it's a sand, it can be the sand. It's at the beginning when we start to work with the artist, it's a bit difficult for us to imagine why are those particles are like that. But we are engineers, we just try to make it that you will feel like that. And these are the gloves, how it look like when it comes to the public exhibition. So this might give you some idea like what kind of VR scenario we start with. But what was the story behind that? How did we actually develop that? So when we start with from the engineering perspective, we want to make something that is reconfigurable, meaning that it's not just for this specific VR project. It can be applied to other projects, and you need to provide high resolution. And that is also problematic, because if you want high resolution, it means you need to have a lot of motors. Like the density need to be high, and it can be extensible, and wireless connectivity, this is actually very important, especially if you want to put it to public place for exhibition, very easy to wear and low cost. So we target this something like under 200 euro for one pair of haptic gloves. So that was kind of the budget we want to set, and we want to see if we can make it like that. So then we started by choosing the vibration motors. And we want something to be battery powered, very small, very thin. And at the end, we found this one with about 5 millimeter. That is the smallest one we could find at that time. But where to place the vibration motor? So at that time, the commercial one have up to 5 vibration motors on the palm. But from the literature, we figured out that it's possible to put like a 15. Somebody have a try, and that might be a better way to go. So we settled on 18 motors, so 15 on the palm and 3 on the back. So with that one, later it proved that it is actually good enough to kind of generate most of those sensations on your palm. So this 15 is kind of, 18 seems to be the good number. And we go through 4 iterations, and you can see the first version, it was really like very simple, testable, but doesn't look good. So we just simply put the 3 motors on 1 finger and 2 on the thumb like that, and just to start making the test like how they work. But you could see like it actually hindered the mobility of your finger. It's not good. So then we said, let's try to put them to this plastic PCB. It became more compact, but still the mobility is an issue. And we tried the third one, replace the plastic PCB with sticker PCB. Yeah, and then we noticed the soldering is really difficult when you want to solder those on this sticker PCB. And at the end, we say, okay, let's just remove all the PCB from your fingers, and then we just leave the motors there, and we put everything in 1 copper PCB, and then you kind of wear as a bracelet there together with the batteries. So that was kind of the last one. And we made the design in the way that you have 2 layers of the gloves. So under it is just a normal, let's say, a cotton glove. And then this is the one, if you can turn the inside out, you put it on top. And the reason is that you can wash the inner layer. So, because we did it during the COVID, and we think that could be one idea to do. But still, I would say it's not very easy to put it on. So during this whole process, we basically are struggling with the wearability all the way. How to put things very easy to wear, you know, it doesn't hinder your mobility, and if make it even better, it should even look better. So that's still like a challenge, I would say. And we provide also the APIs, and this is the open source one. So you can control the intensity, the frequency of each motor. So basically you can define different temporal and spatial patterns. So simply, if you want the raindrop, it can be some random kind of vibration on the palm. If you want some water flow, you can design this kind of pattern in the way that, you know, like this. So you can try to configure that one. So we didn't end there, and then we did our second haptic project. We made the haptic bracelets for rehabilitation, for stroke rehabilitation, how to guide the people in their hand exercises. But I would say it was not very successful because we realized that the stroke patients couldn't actually sense this haptic very well. When you guide them to turn this way, they just didn't sense it. So it was not a success. And now we are working on our third haptic project. So you can see already from there. So now we go from the gloves to the garment. And we want to create immersive virtual sauna experience. And why we choose sauna? Because we are located in Finland. So Finland has a 5.5 million population, but over 3 million sauna. So we have, they said how many saunas in our campus, like close to 100 in our campus. We have sauna in our building also, so we can have meetings in the sauna. So that's why we really like this sauna. And we think this is also the nice case study from haptic, because nobody has studied the haptic, this experience for sauna. So it should, I don't know, have you been to a Finnish sauna or in general to the sauna? So it's not just making you warm, right? This heat is just one element. There are many other things. You need to feel the movement. It might have some emotional responses. They need to also some kind of sound and so on. So it is quite complex. So we choose this, and we are still happy that we make this decision. But how we actually do this design, so we follow a very typical design process. So basically you try to explore the sensation, you come up with a design requirement, you make prototype, and then you evaluate that. Well, it's a very typical one. But actually, when people working on thermal technology, usually they say, oh, this is the hardware that can create hot or cold. And then they say, let's put it somewhere and make a measurement, and that's it. So we haven't seen so much work like how you actually would try to recreate this kind of thermal experience. So we add one step there, so-called the live thermal experience. How do you learn it? And how do we actually do it? Is that we invite people to sauna. So we want to understand how people experience it and how they would actually express their experience there. So we have doctoral student, Tim Moisken. So he invited 10 people, and of course every time one. And they are also active sauna goer, meaning that they also go to sauna in real life. And we invite people to the sauna, and then they have a different kind of sessions. So people first, they need to sit there, they need to experience, and when they come out, there are some interview, and then we did something else. Because we noticed that if I ask you, can you describe your sauna experience? You might feel that I don't have enough words, you know. So the verbal expression is not enough. So we introduced two more methods. So one is this. On the left side, you'll see there's a clay. Actually, Ting made it in the lab with different shapes. So the idea is that you use this to kind of describe, are you like kind of some emotional response, like arousal or violence, like that. You see some are with smooth, some look more like a sharp and like that. And you can choose those to kind of help the expression. And the other one we choose is this body map. So people can draw, so they try to explain how they feel this kind of heat is flowing across their body. And based on their expression, we try to define the heat dimension. So this is what we have found. So of course, heat is dynamic. We know heat is dynamic, but in which way they are dynamic. So we learned that usually it has a very intense start and then a gradual cooling effect. And typically it goes from top to the bottom like that. That is what we learn. And then we usually say we don't want to provide any discomfortable experience. But in sauna, it's very interesting. People first need to go through the phase that they feel pain or discomfort, and after that they relax. So that's like they actually enjoy this kind of discomfort. And also this is something that comes with the texture. So people say, I feel like I am wearing the blanket, hot blanket, or, you know, it's not just the heat, it has its own texture there. And of course, there are also different things, like especially interesting thing like the different emotion responses there. So from all these heat dimensions, so we come to the next step. We need to define the heat parameters. So from three perspectives. One is like the motion, so how the heat should be generated, how the pattern should look like, and then the timbre. So when we talk about timbre of the sound, it's easy to understand, but when it comes to the haptic, what does it mean? So it means, for example, for thermal, should it be very sharp or should it be very smooth? And it's actually not easy to implement when you think things like that, and how it also distributes across the body. But then when we have all those kind of design parameters in practice, what kind of prototype should we make? So the first thing is how to create the heat. And we end up with two solutions. So the first one is using the heating yarns. So they have this kind of a conductive yarn. So if you put something like that, and then you apply the voltage there, let's say 9 volt, 12 volt, and they start getting hot. And that is also how people implement some heating jacket in the market. You might see some heating jacket. Or maybe here you don't need it, but like in Finland, in the cold, people put a heating jacket. So there are a lot of, you know, this kind of heating elements there. So something similar there. And then there is another technique called a peltier. And peltier, so basically is you can imagine a piece of a rigid component. And when the current flows through it, it moves the heat from one side to the other. So when one side gets hot, the other side gets cold. And this is, we make some small kind of holder for the peltier. And what we need to do, basically, we try to see how temperature change, how fast they change, and so on. And we decided to go with the peltier, which is like a kind of more controllable, and it can kind of create both heat and cold in this case. But then where should we place the peltier modules? That's another question. It's actually difficult when you come to anything related to the haptic. So then the first thing we realized that actually it's also studied in the literature. So how people, different people, they discriminate the changes in temperature in different ways. So it depends on many things. It depends on where you place those, what is the initial temperature, how fast the temperature change, and then how high the temperature is going. And this varies So you can't say this applies to one person, it definitely works for the other person. So we have to do a lot of kind of user study to understand that. But then after that, it's still another question. Okay, when you want to create this kind of motion, like the heat is flowing, how to do? You can't put a lot of peltier there, it's not practical. So we study how to achieve this thermal motion illusion. So it means that I don't place hundreds of peltier on my body. And in this simple example, we have 2 peltier there. When you activate one and then the other one later, you can feel there is like heat flow. But then you need to precisely control when to activate the second one. And that again requires the user study. So basically, what if I activate the first one, and what we did is, let's say after 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, you know, you have to try and to figure out what is actually the right interval there. And then we need to ask people, like, do you feel any motion? Sometimes they don't feel anything. And then when you feel the motion and you know how strong is the intensity of that, so they also draw something like that. So basically, I would say we can't really explain why it works like that. We only observe, you know, with certain configuration, and this is how people sense. So in this case, for example, we figure out like 6 seconds is kind of a good one, good threshold value to go. So based on all this, so basically we come to our current prototype, and you can see this is how our garment look like. So those peltiers and all those electric parts, they are hidden there. You don't maybe see it there. So now what we are studying is we try to further minimize the peltier modules there. So now what we are studying is that what if we put the peltier and vibration motor together? Because there is a theory called the thermal referral. So what does thermal referral mean? If you have 2 sensations, one is the temperature, the other is tactile. If you place them close by, and then the place where you feel the vibration or this tactile, you feel the temperature as well. So that's like a very interesting thing. And we are trying to see, can we utilize that to kind of better implement this heat flow using the vibration plus this peltier. But the question is, nobody can tell you where to place the peltier, where to place the vibration, and how many, and then they will achieve the best experience. So it still required some study there. And also now we are collecting this physiobiology signal, not just your heartbeat, but also like your GSR and so on. So we could see the emotion responses to different thermal experience. And for example, when you have vibration, maybe your heartbeat, maybe your GSR, maybe your EEG will change. And that is something we are also studying there. So we hope that we will finish all this work within the 6 months, so maybe then you will see more information. And I also hope that one day you could also try our garment, so you can experience the Finnish sauna even remotely. And just to mention that even though our project has not ended, but we have already open sourced our design. So we have made this called a thermal touch, a modular design there. So it means that now if you want to implement any haptic, either thermal, vibration, or you know all this, you don't need to start from scratch. We have the PCB design, we have the open APIs, so you can easily create yours. So basically it's a modular design, and it supports, so we have tested, for example, with different heating and also a different sensor, because you always need the sensors there as well. And just to show you how in general it looks like, it's a bit more technical. So basically, we have a master board. You can imagine it's a controller, and that is the part that connects to your VR application, either Unity or Unreal Engine. And then from your software, it gives some kind of command to this one. And it can also collect the sensor information through the API. So you can monitor, for example, the temperature, the heartbeat, and so on. You can collect the information through the API. And then you can control what kind of temperature you want to achieve, what kind of vibration you want to apply to which one there. So that is the master board, and then we have the slave board. So basically each slave board can control 2 actuators and also 2 sensors there. It can be any sensor, any actuator there. And we have the power module, so that can regulate the voltage there. And then we have this, so you can see basically what is the size of the current PCB. So the main one is like the biggest one. I think that is the power board. And then the other one is about like a 3 to 4 centimeter. So if you download the PCB design and then you make it, that is the size it look like there. So how we make it, basically we make some small, you can make some small pocket, for example, and then hide it if you want. And the APIs are also very simple to use. And by the way, this support the Wi-Fi connection, so it's completely wireless. So from the application, you can just send some very simple command there. Just give a very simple example. For example, I want to control one vibration motor. I want to adjust the intensity, and there are 2 motors. I want to set all of them to the highest level for the next one to vibrate for 1 second. So it is something look very simple like that. And that is, we have the Unity and the Unreal Engine API, and you just need to send the command, and then the hardware take care of all the rest. And how it will be integrated, we are still trying to improve this, because you want something to look nice. You don't want to see all the wires there. So instead of those cables, we are now using this conductive, either conductive traces or conductive yarns instead of the typical copper wire there. And now the tricky part is that you still have something like the PCB, and you still have some cable like that. It's still difficult to replace this part, because this socket, we don't make that one ourselves. And we use the snap button to kind of connect this one. And this snap button depends on what kind of fabric you use there. Sometimes it's not very easy to keep it there. So this is still something we are still trying to improve. But in general, how to integrate electronic into textile is an open issue for e-textile. So that is something we are still working on. And this now comes to my last slide. So what I see as a practical challenge is if you want to start integrating haptic into your own project. So first of all, I can't say, well, we can't really have one haptic device that fits all VR projects or all XR projects. You basically need to customize it. So then that takes time. So if you buy the commercial one, you need to first check, is that customizable? If you go with this kind of open source design like the one we make, then the problem is that the wearability is not as good as the commercial one. So you need to spend a lot of time debugging and fixing sometimes some small issues there. And in general, developing haptic devices or haptic experience is very time consuming and labor consuming. We are basically following this trial and error approach. You do something, you go with a user test, and then come, okay, this is not good enough, and then we try another design. And we know, for example, we work also for wearable sensors. And for wearable sensor design, now we are replacing this kind of trial and error approach with simulation-driven approach. So without doing any user tests, we can simulate people's motion, we can simulate the sensor reading. But haptic is something we cannot simulate because we don't know so well how human body works. So then unfortunately, we have to go with a real human subject, and that takes time. And the last thing is that how do you evaluate the haptic experience? Nowadays, people still go mainly with questionnaire. There are all kinds of questionnaire. But I think the trend is that more and more people are going towards physiological signals. But how do you interpret those signals? Because even emotion recognition based on the signals, they are like case specific. So that is still a difficult part. Yeah, so that will come to the end of my presentation, and hopefully you get some useful information from this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We are working like Espronceda and like most of you, trying to connect art, science, technology, and society in a single ecosystem. Well, as it was done during the whole history, I don't know why, some years ago, we split science, we split technology, we split society, art, whatever. We just try to do as always, as usual. I mean, maybe it's because La Fura has more than 40 years, so we are old-fashioned, and we want to keep together science, technology, arts, and society. At least in Europe, it should be like that, because we have to think in a humanistic technology, in a society ready for facing the future. And I think that, well, I was talking with Henrik this morning, I think that we are the Épica Foundation, we are supposed to be the legacy of La Fura dels Baus. And I think it's important to understand, just in a couple of minutes, the why we are here. It's because La Fura born after Franco, and it was crucial for La Fura. After 40 years of darkness, people just want energy, strong sensations. It was, but La Fura was La Fura because it was at that time. I mean, most of the things they did in the 80s are not allowed today. I mean, simply are not allowed. You cannot now throw a door of a car to the people and just assume they will move. I mean, it's not allowed anymore, but it was, and people was asking for that. In the Épica Foundation, we are 7 years old. We are in a completely different context, but with the same soul, let's say. Now we are in the science. For me, science and technology, let's say, we can discuss, but when I say science, I say knowledge. It's science, technology, all these kind of things. Now we are in the science-driven society. So most of the things now are due to or thanks to science and evolution. So art should be again talking about that. And then the new context is not anymore Franco. It is this super fast scientific evolution, technological evolution. So we are there, trying to talk about future and trying to again create these kind of ecosystems. So today I will just present you a couple of things. The mission and vision of the Épica is simple but complex. Simple, it's try to position back arts and creativity in the research and innovation ecosystem. And it was always, I mean, I will not talk about Leonardo Ateliers because it's too agusarat. Agusarat is in Catalan. But, for example, it's well known that in the English Industrial Revolution, English coffees were a hotspot for innovation. And it was due to that. I mean, simply was a point for meeting humanists, technologists, engineers, and all these kind of things. And after these discussions, some new ideas appear. So this is simple but complex. So how we are trying, and the problem that we have now is that the future, it's not anymore 100 years, it's 2 or 3 years. So only if arts and creativity is really close to science, we are able to talk about future. If not, we are always talking about past. So this is the main problem that we have. Science grows so fast, so we need to be inside in order to talk about future. As Aalto University or wherever, we need to talk about these kind of potential things. If not, we always arrive late. I mean, now we have a lot of discussions about artificial intelligence. It's already there. Now we can discuss about how we position, but it's there. I mean, the thing is we need to be on what, and as Pep says always, future is in scientific labs. So we need to be there in order to understand what will happen in the next 5 years, not once we get it. And the second important value that we need to offer is for society is to really prepare society about what's coming next. You don't need to be an expert on haptics. You don't need to be an expert on artificial intelligence, but at least you need to understand the challenges and the opportunities. If it's a tool or if it's a disaster, if it has some ethics problems or not, but you need to understand in order to be ready for that. For example, I always explain the same story, but I'm really fear about my kids, 8 years old. I'm quite sure the professors will not be ready for this artificial intelligence digital transition. Of course, they need time, but if they are not in, they will be out. So that's a problem now in all these important transitions. This is again another example. So this ocean transformation, this is a scientific exposition about the human impact on Earth. But this is the kind of things that we want to do. This is only context. The important thing is not the exhibition. It's nice. you will like it. If I put sound, it's even better. But the important thing is the discussion, once you understand it, once you see the thing. So this is the kind of things that we wanna do here. I will present you, well, this is the vision and mission, I told you. We have several projects now. I will present, we are putting them in these 2 months that we will have. You will see a big tent there, 20 by 25 meters by 8 meters high. And we try to put all activities together here in these 2 months in order to take advantage and try to showcase that Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, we can be a hotspot. Of course, together with our friends from Espronceda and many others. I mean, there are plenty of things, important things in Barcelona and in Catalonia that we have to group in order to be relevant. It's quite important, our mission now. I mean, it's our turn to really showcase the potential of these kind of interactions. So we need to group efforts and showcase the potential. If not, we will be isolated, small, stupid things. So, myself too, I mean, it's not easy. So we need to really showcase the thing. So in these 2 months, we will group plenty of things. We had good luck in Europe during the last couple of years. So for example, we are working here in a crazy project. It's called a scene. This is for how to apply advanced technologies. I think you are also partners there. In trying to apply novel technologies, digital twins, artificial intelligence, all these kinds of things, trying to reinvent the cinema productions related to cultural heritage. We need to work a lot in order to don't be alone. For example, our mission here is trying to be sector oriented. I mean, we are not developing technologies. We are just trying to keep the values. So we cannot rethink cultural cinema without the cultural people. I mean, we need to work closely with the tech people. We need to work closely with the scientists, because of course they have some, let's say, biases. Yeah, but maybe sometimes they even don't know it. So we need to work together with them in order to understand it. So this is an interesting project we are working. It's a big European project with led by 13 Greece, with German collaborations, with a lot of things. And in this GATE project here, we will do what we know how to do. I mean, trying to combine this kind of both things. So putting in value cultural and creative sector in the research and innovation ecosystem. So we are doing much more than knowledge transfer, but of course we do knowledge transfer. I mean, but we need to also validate why artists should be inside research ecosystems, because they are able to put value on that. It's not because we are doing scientific communication, that's okay, we do, but we can create future scenarios, we can anticipate use cases, we can have a more holistic vision, and we can work with many different people trying to create a virtual sauna. I mean, but for me, with all respects, the sauna, it's not the goal. The goal is the potential once you have the sauna for whatever, maybe for health, maybe for whatever. This is the kind of things, but we start with a sauna, that's perfect because it combines plenty of different things, but it can be used for whatever. This is the kind of thing that we are trying to do by using art as the vehicle in order to create new knowledge, new ambitions, and how to really validate what I hope in this room we all believe, that we can create and put value on the table. For industry, for research, for whatever, because it's just trying to create new visions, new futures. So all the GATE Festival will talk about vision, about future. So the first thing we will do is the exhibition that I will explain you at the end, but it's the European Performing Science Night next Friday. No, this Friday, no, the next week Friday. As you may know, it's the European Researchers' Night. It's la nit europea dels investigadors. The mission of this event in more than 400 cities Europe at the same time is to put in value scientists in society. We do our punky version of that, this is the European Performing Science Night. So we will try to take advantage of the arts and science in order to really create emotional connections with the audience, in order to engage them in scientific topics. That's perfect. We have 22 really nice people working now together with the scientists from the computer vision, from the Instituto de Ciencias del Mar, from La UOC, in order to try to understand what they are doing, to understand their futures, to try to transfer it to the audience, but also try to transfer it to the scientists, how we are able to create these kind of things. Of course, we have a strong program with schools during the whole year, but this year and next year we will do the European Performing Science Night. And for example, this event inside the Gate Festival, it's for scientists. It's trying to promote scientists, I mean, because they are part of our ecosystem. So we want to create a single group, but this one is for scientists. Cool. Then we have the STARS programs. We are regional center of STARS, maybe you know. Then we have the AIR, and we will do a festival here at the end of October, showcasing the results of 10 artists that we give them 40K each, so that means 400,000 euros, 10 months residency. But I think that the most important thing is that we have, artist has 40K, but also access to, for example, two of the most important supercomputing centers in Europe, the German one and the Catalan one. So you get the money to work on it, but also you get the resources, because it's not fair to tell an artist, do artificial intelligence with your laptop. If you are working with artificial intelligence, you have to go to Barcelona Supercomputing Center and at least try it there, you know? Maybe once or twice, but it's okay. At least you can do whatever, you know? This is the kind of thing that we are doing. Also in our festival, it will be a bit crazy, because we are putting together the 10 artists during 1 week here in order to try to create one thing instead of 10 small things, one big thing together. Good morning. So this will be at the end of October, so you are all invited to come. It will be, I hope, really nice. But the idea is that we will be here working for 1 week, 10 artists and 20 scientists. And this event is for showcasing the potential of the artists, but again, in close collaboration. It's important, why? Because once you put the scientists also on stage, they will show their faces. So they need to be engaged, or we will showcase all our problems, you know? And then it's nice to put this kind of pressure. This is something that we used to do. For example, this European Performing Science Night will be done in 2 weeks. So we started Monday with an empty 500 square meters space, and the next Friday we will showcase to 200 people. What? I'm not sure. But this kind of pressure and friction works, because then you have to deliver, you have to take decisions. I think that it's important for us to also make mistakes, because, for example, in scientists, mistakes are well considered. If you validate on a paper that something is not possible, it's cool. But you cannot do that in art. Okay, we do. I mean, we try. It works. We will fake it. You know, this is the concept of MVP. No, I like this kind of thing, vision of fake it until you make it. This is art. We can envision, we can fake it. I mean, art is about dreams. So if the sauna is not 100%, but it's a nice vision, that's cool. Because then you need 3 more years, cool. But at least you need to fake that it's possible, and then bam, you are on inline. But you need resources in the same level of arts, of science. Then of course we have this kind of exhibitions. We will do a special event with John Palmesino, that it's the curator and the artist. But this again, this exposition, I really like it. It's really complex, to be honest with you, but it's really nice, because once you get it, this is, John is working a lot with Anthropocene, you know, it's the impact of humans on Earth. And all the experts agree that in 2300, the sea will rise at least 8 meters. At least, I mean, this is the better situation. He said that I really like it, that this is for example, the most important challenge that we have in the architecture, because we have to reinvent cities. Because our neighbor will move. That's cool, because in this vision, you need to reconfigure the city, but you need much more talent than an architect. You need anthropologists, you need people from health, You need people from oceans, you need people from architecture, from policy making. So how we are ready for that, because this will come. You know, this is the kind of things, and to be honest with you, the exposition is really beautiful. That's art, I mean, always work, but it's much more interesting, the discussion after the exhibition, because there is where you can really work on that. And then at the end, we will do the Gate Pro, that I really like it. This is not for people. I mean, all what I told you is for really creating awareness, for really creating, let's say, this kind of knowledge transfer for society in order to really be engaged. But on the 28th and 29th, we are preparing a really professional event in order to talk about future. And this is only for stakeholders. I mean, I am trying to group here most of the leaders that I need, that we should be here in order to discuss what to do for the next 5 years, how to push European Commission, our local governments, our local people, our international people, but as a group to say, hey guys, this is important, we need to be there, and this is quite important. The very last thing, this, for example, we are the Épica Foundation, La Fura dels Baus, and we had better access on science than in the art. So as a telecom engineer that I came from research, I want to also ask, I did it in the opening on Monday, to the artists to do a step further and say, hey, we can put value on that, believe on that and push for that, because we are ready for that. And they need us. So let's try to push, because future it's nearby and we need to be part, because if not, society will be out. And I think that this is the important thing. So that's it. Thank you very much for being here. I will be here all the day, so anything you need, happy to share with you.
So I focus on the EU projects that are really related to creativity and technology. I have been working with the STARTS program and Creative Europe for like 10 years now, and what I do specifically in this field is that I write applications for these programs. So I design projects with consortium partners. What I do also more and more, because people ask me, is to review some applications for organizations, but also for artists that want to apply to open calls, that are not really sure how to frame their applications, what is a work package, what is a deliverable, what is an expected outcomes, all these terms that are not very familiar to the majority of people. And then I also manage European projects. And I'm particularly interested also in the field of, in this field, to think about the methodologies to foster multidisciplinary collaborations, so between scientists, technologists, artists, different types of scientists also, so how to design and launch an open call, how to monitor, facilitate residencies also. So this is basically my job, and I do it as a freelance, and I collaborate with cultural organizations in Europe. So first I want to talk to you about STARTS, which is the main program that I collaborate with. So STARTS is an initiative from the European Commission that was launched like 10 years ago by DG Connect, which is which manages the digital agenda of the European Commission, and they started to think that it could be interesting to integrate arts in technology, and this is how it started. It's really to foster these collaborations between artists and both scientists and technologists, because sometimes it's or technology or science, but STARTS is really the three of them. Yes, so how to create innovative solutions also for society. So it works with different pillars. First, you have the STARTS Prize that you may know, that is organized by Ars Electronica historically, and that awards innovative projects that are already established and exist with prize money. And then we have residencies. So I put over 150, but actually now it's 250 because there are a lot of residencies that are supported by this program. And they do this through different types of projects. So you have the lighthouses that we call, so there are thematical projects. For example, it exists Stars for Water. We have also one dedicated to wearable technologies that were sustained. We had one that was dedicated to robotics, also to media. So there are really thematic projects where all the residencies, all the projects are really focused on this, on the thematic. And then another pillar is also academy. So it's an educational side of STARTS. So to share the knowledge with the public, with kids also, with students in university. And more recently, we have launched the regional START Center. So it was the idea that, okay, at the European level, there is STARTS, but it needs to be anchored at regional level, also physical level. And so we have started to develop centers where really things happen and people know that they can come and they will be supported in their projects. So I took here the example of a project that is called the Plant Sense, and I thought it was, let's say, emblematic of what STARTS is doing, also from Spanish artists. So I thought it was interesting that maybe you know this project because it has circulated across Europe. So basically, they study the plants and the emissions of the plants, how they react to the environment and to the human presence. And so in the basic installation, let's say, you have the plants, and then you have some data that appear that show how the plants are reacting, and then you have also this wearable where you can feel also let's say, the emotions or the reactions of the plants. And I think this is really, let's say, what STARTS is. It's really combining design, arts, and this technology and science. So what I wanted to tell you is to check the STARTS website, because there you have opportunities that are shared all the time, not only from STARTS projects, but also from other projects that are related to our field. And also you have a lot of events where you can attend. A lot of them are online also, so that's interesting for everyone. And I wanted to mention also a symposium that we are organizing at the end of the month here in Barcelona that can be interesting for you. It's a symposium that we are organizing in the frame of STARTS in the City, so it's a regional STARTS Center project. And we wanted to reflect a little on the impact that the STARTS project have, or this kind of collaborations, because this is quite challenging, I think, for all of us. We do a lot of things that are super interesting, but maybe we have difficulties to show our impact and our applications also, and how it can be interesting for sponsors or for companies, for the industry. So we organize this symposium with a lot of colleagues. We will have presentations and performances, and so to reflect really on the more methodological side and impact. And I wanted also to share with you an open call that has been launched some days ago, that is running, so it's still open if you are interested. And this is, let's say, an original way to foster these collaborations between different disciplines. So it's not a STARTS project, it's a large-scale Creative Europe cooperation. So the idea is that you have a double component. you can have emerging artists that are invited to collaborate with established scientists. And on the other hand, you can have you have an open call for young scientists that want to work with established artists. So you have this these two sides, because usually what is being done is that you have a call for artists and they work with a lab or a company, but this way we wanted also the other way around. We thought that maybe it could be interesting to open to scientists so they can really dive into an artist, a studio of an artist. So that's in the, if you are interested, you can go to the Studiotopia website, but also you can find it in STARS. Then I will continue with another project that I collaborate with, which is called Realities in Transitions, that is really about XR, really focused, and I see a lot of similarities with IMMENSIVA, so I thought it would be interesting to talk about it. So Realities in Transition is also a Creative Europe funded project that aims at exploring and supporting alternative extended reality productions, also to support the creation of new narratives and really exploring this medium at artistic level. And for this, we are a consortium with names that you might know, and the coordinator of the project is Chronique in the south of France, and so this is in this context that I collaborate with them. And as I was saying, the main focus is to support artists to create XR projects, to really explore and push the boundaries, also to have a reflection also on what is an XR project at artistic level and how you can reflect on this medium, also to do art, but also have an impact on the public, think about mediation also, production, diffusion. That's also, I think that we are all asking this kind of questions, so this is a space to do this. And we had 3 open calls, and the third one, I think that we made a really good step forward in our reflection, and this is where I think there is a lot of crossovers with IMMENSIVA. So what we did is that we called 7 creative people that didn't present a project, because we called them to reflect on a book that is called Simulacrum 3, that is a science fiction book that talks about data surveillance and ethics, and we thought, okay, XR, it's really related to all these questions, so let's gather these people around this book. So we wanted to select profiles and not really projects that came together to create together a collective artwork that had to be, so the challenge was to work on the book, but also to create something that is interactive, and that also with a VR experience, that the people around and the person with a VR headset are not isolated, because we see that with these VR experiences, you have the people that are really immersed in the experience, and then around them you have the others that don't know what happened, and they just wait and they don't know anything. And so we really wanted to reflect a little on these interactions. And so they have created, I don't have many photos, because they have presented for the first time at Ars Electronica like 10 days ago, so I don't have the pictures. This is mine, so it's very bad. But the idea was that when you enter the experience, you scan your face if you want, and then you have this installation, so you have a big screen where the faces are transformed. You can be transformed in a hallucination machine. you can be also transformed in a right-wing person, a sad person, a Tesla driver. So they picked like profiles and they work on this scanning and transforming to see how yourself you can also be other things. So it relates to identity also. And I think their main achievement was really to have this person with a VR headset that is living an experience, but you see what is happening on the screen, and so you can really accompany and you live the experience with the people with a VR headset. So in this way you are also in the experience, even if you don't wear the VR headset. And I think that was the beginning of something that we want to explore more, also because we are at the beginning of this VR and XR experiences, so a lot will happen in the next years. And also the fact to have different profiles at management level, it was super challenging, of course, because it's not the same experience when you have one person and 7 strong personalities. But it was also really, really interesting, and we have learned a lot. And so if you want to discover more, you can visit this website on Realities in Transition. And I wanted also to let my contact if you are interested. And of course, if you want to know more, we can discuss a little later in the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. So I'm the Managing Director of XR4Europe. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of networks, professional and industrial networks within the XR industry, which is also now being called virtual worlds, in addition to having been called metaverse for a couple of years. And we'll talk a little bit about festivals as well at the end, or opportunities to exhibit, and how that's kind of emerging and changing. But first, a little bit about me, because I don't have a background in the arts or the creative sector. I say that, but it's now been about 5 years since I started to do something in the creative sector. So perhaps background is, I'm starting to develop that. But as Alejandro mentioned, we connected in 2020 during the pandemic era because IMMENSIVA was starting and there was a call. And we were actually connected to a group of people called XR Crowd, which was a network of professionals who met around physical XR events and then virtualized in the pandemic, and started to explore how can exhibitions like Cannes and Venice and South by Southwest and Sundance and all these groups still happen in the pandemic, particularly because they work with virtual reality. So the expectation is you can simply virtualize, whereas other events maybe just shut down, they had to do something. So we met in that time, and the XR art residency that we did in Istanbul in 2022 at Aalto University with the support of SNAP was directly inspired by IMMENSIVA and my experience with IMMENSIVA and with the Venice Biennale Cinema College program that I had been a mentor for earlier in that year. And then we organized in Turkey for a long time, where I was based, and I started my XR career, things with creatives and artists from around the world who were using and exploring different things. And more recently, I've started to do my own developer of last resort. If you're an artist and you can't find any money, because I can only help you define a little bit, then I'm your developer if you need. So there's been a couple projects like Queer Utopia, which was at Venice last year, that I was the developer for. Was at CPH Docs and will be at others. And then I just came from 2 weeks performing in VR in Venice, actually for an installation that was, as previously described in some of these, there's an audience who's sitting down watching people's experiences who are in a headset. And then the performers are in a headset. So if you want to see someone in a headset gesturing, you can, but if you're wearing the headset, you get a much better experience. I can say that, for example, that experience, we did not want the live audience. We wanted the VR audience. But the festival said, we've got to move numbers. We've got to move tickets. So you need to have this extra thing. So sometimes it's not always necessarily from the creative, but it's from the exhibitors, from the festival, who's saying, our business model is built off of a historic type of experience. You're doing something great and cool, awesome, but still satisfy our needs while we're giving you the opportunity to show your work. And then I actually created my own virtual exhibition because I got more into virtual exhibitions because I was based in Istanbul and no one's coming to Istanbul for something I'm going to organize. So, you know, using spatial and hubs and stuff, that's what I got into. So that's a little bit about me, but now transitioning to what the work that I actually do with XR4Europe. We are an association that represents those who work with immersive technologies in Europe continentally. But that means our main client is the European Commission. And we work very closely with them on a number of projects. And we have been kind of supercharged by this communication that came out last summer, which is the Virtual World Initiative, which is basically saying virtual world is not metaverse, because we don't use that meta word anymore, because there are good reasons. No one just can seem to say anything other than we don't like meta. But virtual worlds is metaverse. It's XR. It's all of that thing. It's just this is the preferred term. And it's a strategic importance for the European Union. And so they have these 4 pillars that they're setting up as like key areas where they're going to be developing. When you dive into it, you realize it's very industrial. It's very industrial, but all the visuals are not very industrial visuals. So it's, they're all been torn by wanting to really focus on culture and the arts, but at the end of the day, for some reason, everything still has to be industrial. But anyway, in a nutshell, this has kind of supercharged a lot of ongoing initiatives, and that's reflected in the Horizon Europe program. So right now, Horizon Europe has 80 projects that are either active or approved and will be activated that feature or focus on XR technologies in them. Those are the ones we're tracking. There are other programs that we don't have as great a visibility on. Digital Europe and Creative Europe are other programs that also do a lot in this space that we unfortunately are just learning how to follow. But this just shows how much money is still going into this program. And with the Virtual World Initiative, one of the major outcomes is the creation of a new association whose sole specific job is to create the strategic research agenda to tell Europe how to spend your money in virtual worlds going forward in the future versions of Horizon. So that's not just industrial, that's also creative and cultural, but there's a big focus on societal benefits as well. So generally speaking, everyone is kind of freaking out about this because it's not really clear what this actually means in operation. So there are many networks who are trying to position themselves on the good side of this. But anyway, in Europe, it's never been a bigger deal politically, virtual worlds. And so there's just a lot of funding and likely to be much more of it. So XR4Europe itself, we actually came out of a program called XR for All, which was kind of a way to support entrepreneurship across different sectors, including the creative sector. When that finished, most of these projects need to have some type of sustainable outcome, and we were that sustainable outcome as XR4Europe. And we're in 2 projects right now and starting a 3rd one. And so XR for Human is halfway through, and it's all about building ethical frameworks and guidelines for creators and developers. Again, they're very focused on industry, but the people in the program are academics and people more in the creative sector. So there's often this engagement where they're trying to really explore ethics that's for industry, but their motivation is coming more from how to engage and understand how people benefit from this, which includes a lot of cultural content and artistic content. Openverse is just another project that's developing open standards and frameworks to try to make it easier for people in Europe to engage with this. And then we just have one that's for medical XR that's about to start. So, but because we are representing the whole of Europe and basically kind of everybody who's working with it, we engage in a lot of programs that are trying to support a wide range of people. Espronceda Institute of Art and Culture for us is like an ideal partner because they focus in the creative sector and we can't focus on one specific sector. So we need to find our partners who are really there all the time. And then our interest is there's a lot of other sectors who need to better understand what's going on in the creative sector because there's a lot of knowledge that isn't necessarily being passed through if we're not active to try to build these bridges. So we engage in a lot of our own independent research for the industry and thought leadership. We do research at like the national level and the European level. And then we support startups and creatives through different types of programs like the Startup Wise Guys thing, which is a venture fund in Estonia closely aligned with like Match XR and Slush for entrepreneurship, and then the Impulse program, which I'll talk about later, which is for entrepreneurship and also creative content creators. But just because we're here, I'll just show you a little snippet of what makes Spain as such an exciting market for me, is that it's such an international European market. Broadly speaking, European XR is very global, but Spain is kind of a standout because they do so much. This is, all those line represents outgoing export of XR services, which is typically in the creative and cultural sectors. Some of it's in industry, but most of it tends to be for cultural production and some education. And that Spanish XR is quite supported by IMMERSIVA, which is one of the kind of umbrella organizations based in Madrid, and then from trade promotion opportunities, taking XR service providers and creators to things like Immersive Tech Week in Rotterdam. And then just because it was mentioned just a few talks ago, Finland is kind of like everyone's chasing Finland right now because they released a national strategy. So there's been an active discussion in Spain. Can Spain be the second country? Because there is no second country yet. Finland announced this late summer last year, early fall. They're going to do kind of a year retrospective at Stereopsia at the end of the year to say tangibly what did this do for our ecosystem. Finland, unlike a lot of other markets, they have creative, but they're super industrial. And you notice that these are all their companies. They have hardware all the way up to creators. So that's why they're very vertically integrated. Other markets like Spain, and we've had our discussions, it's more mixed in terms of service providing and creation. So what would a national strategy look like for Spain that has so much more strength in the actual creative industries? That's an open question. So just talking about the networks, not every country in Europe has representative bodies. Spain is fortunate that they have many at smaller local levels and then at a national level. But many of the countries that are most active and most prominent in Europe do have a representative body, and it's important to engage with them. And so now coming to exhibitions. So I just came out of Venice. Some of these pictures are a little older now because they were in the pandemic era when I had more pictures. Because when I'm physically at an event, I'm not taking pictures. But when I'm virtually at an event, I am taking them. But this is when, you saw this transition in terms of what was being exhibited from kind of like 360 and cinematics into things more experiential, because once you had to go into a world, you were already in an experience, so you're not as interested in this linear narratives. So even though you don't see as many we still have a lot of virtual exhibitions, the physical exhibitions have progressively continued this trend to experience-based, and that's just something Alejandro and I were talking about at Venice, that this traditional linear narrative is becoming a little niche and a little vintage actually for these places, but the film festivals still remain the biggest and the most common exhibition opportunities, most prestigious. So they're kind of torn. They're looking for people who are running things like film productions, but in VR, and increasingly VR is coming to look a lot more like contemporary art installations or gaming, and so there's a growing divide here. So one of the things that we're trying to do as a project is Impulse. And Impulse is a coordination of three main events. One is a film festival, the International Film Festival of Rotterdam, but also Stereopsia in Brussels and Immersive Tech Week in Rotterdam. And these programs had their own marketplaces for creative content. Not always like film narrative, but could be broader, but they were singular moments in the year. So you'd come, you'd have your meetings, and then what happens afterward, it's up to you, it's your project. But a couple years ago, there was an initiative to try to line these up so that you'd have multiple waypoints throughout, say, 6 months of the year to get progressive mentorship and feedback and meetings. And that's still evolving and it's changing because the events don't happen the same time every year. So that makes it hard to kind of schedule exactly what VR Days is when now it's the first event and not the second event. And it's the week after rather than 2 months later. But we're still supporting this. So there's actually an open call right now that has 2 tracks for entrepreneurship and then creative content. So if you have a project and you're interested in being invited to have one-to-one meetings and matchmaking at Stereopsia in Brussels or in Immersive Tech Week or IFFR if you're more in a filmic context, the call is free, and we'll make selections, I think, later at the end of the year. But then another program that we're running is with the Art Tech Foundation, which is a Swiss program foundation that is supporting anyone who's bringing technology into the arts, and they support it with a prize. They right now have 10 nominees, and in Munich we connected them with one of our members who's in Bavaria, who's very keen to showcase and promote the Munich-based creative technology community and the incubators there. We're running a 2-day event. So right now it's a free event if you can get to Munich. The first day is conferences to see what these art entrepreneurs, tech-oriented art entrepreneurs are showcasing. And then the second day is a guided tour around the creative community of Munich to see what incubators are going on, what exhibition spaces and galleries are active there. So because these are 2 of our members, we brought them together and are helping to facilitate this as another opportunity. And that's it. So I tried to be quick because there was a lot to cover, and I'm sure we'll have more opportunity to talk about any questions later. So yeah.